Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be playing Blue-Black Delver in Pauper. For those of you who don't know, Pauper is an MTG only format. It's not sanctioned in paper, other than you might find some local events that are really small, but for the most part it's only on MTGO. If you don't know, Pauper is commons only. It's legacy slash vintage, so it plays all the cards that have ever been printed on MTGO, but they have to be common. And of course, there's a ban list for things that are too strong. But yeah, so we're gonna be playing Delver with the namesake Delver of Secrets. This is like the best one of the best one drop creatures ever printed. You get the 1/1 for 1, but then it flips over in a 3/2 as early as turn 2, which is just incredible tempo, and that's a really big theme of the deck. Other threats include especially the Gurmag Angler, 5/5 with Delve. So you're getting a 5/5 for 1 black mana, often turn 3 or 4. You can get it turn 1 or turn 2, not super likely, but you get a 5/5 super early, and this is just one of the biggest creatures you'll ever see in Pauper, and it does really well against everybody, all other creatures except for other Gurmag Anglers. We also have a couple Sultai Scavengers, another Delve creature. It's a 3/3 flyer, a little smaller. Lightning Bolt hasn't been nearly as popular as a card in the format for a while, and just having Delver 5 and 6 can be really strong. Stormbound Geist, I'm playing 2 of them in the main deck. It's a really good sideboard card against Edict effects. Diabolic Edict and Chainer's Edict are some of the most popular cards for removal in the format, especially when you're playing black, which is a really popular color. So this is really good against that with Undying. The rest of the deck is spells, so that you can flip Delver of Secrets as often as possible. Brainstorm is a really powerful card. You've probably seen it if you ever watched Legacy, and you get to play it in Pauper, which is just awesome. You can use it on your upkeep with a Delver on the board, so you can put a spell on top, make sure you flip it. Really good synchronization right there. And then in order to turn our Delve cards on, we have Thought Scour, which if you've watched Modern, you've seen that in Grixis Death Shadow to cast their Gurmag Anglers. But we also get to play Mental Note, which is basically Thought Scour, but we don't get to target our opponent, but we very rarely would we ever want to. It's still an instant, it still does the same, puts 2 cards, so it adds effectively 3 cards into the graveyard for Delve, which is super powerful, which is why we have the full 8. We have a couple Ponders in order to filter, cycle through our deck a little bit better. Being able to put the 3 cards back in any order can flip our Delver over on the next turn. It's a sorcery, so we can't do it as easily with Brainstorm, but the next turn we can set it up so that it works out. And then we can shuffle away cards, and shuffling effects are really strong with Brainstorm. Put 2 cards you don't want back, shuffle them away. Our removal is 2 Disfigures and 2 Ghastly Demise. Disfigure is good for opposing Delver decks. Blue-Red Delver plays a lot of small creatures. Most decks play creatures that die to Disfigure. It's really powerful in this format, especially for only 1 mana. And our biggest use for it is getting blockers out of the way for Delver of Secrets. And Ghastly Demise is destroy a non-black creature if its toughness is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. So because we're throwing so many cards in the graveyard, it's almost as good as a 1 black Doomblade, which being that cheap makes it a lot easier for us to play threats and remove theirs at the same time. We have an Echoing Decay for token effect or token decks. There's a couple in the format. Battle Screech is a really popular card that makes a bunch of 1/1 flyers that can block our stuff. So this is good for that as a one of. We play 4 Counterspell, another very powerful blue common that is strong enough to be played in Eternal formats like Legacy, and we get to play 4 of them, just the best Counterspell in the game. And we get to play Deprive as Counterspell 5, which we don't mind very much bouncing lands back. It gives us something to do with Brainstorm. We can put lands back and shuffle them away, and we don't need very many lands to go. Daze is another really powerful blue card that's a common on the subject. It's a free mana tithe, Force Spike. Yeah, free Force Spike if we need it to be by just returning an island to our hand, and can be really strong when you play Delver and your opponent is trying to remove it on curve and you counter their 2-mana removal spell, and it can really slow your opponent down. Final card is Gush, which is just an insane value. It's a free divination, free draw 2 cards at instant speed. There are a couple decks in the format that target lands for destruction and bouncing them back to your hand and things. It's really good against those, but it's just really good in general because you really don't need that many lands to function, and drawing 2 cards, returning 2 lands gives you lots of stuff to do on the next turn, and again, it works with Brainstorm. Lands are just some basics. We play 4 Terramorphic. They add a card to the graveyard for Delve, but then we also play Dizzle Backwater just as some good fixing. It's a lot. We don't really want to be playing a lot of basic swamps because we don't have very much black at all, and unfortunately this is the best we can do for fixing in Pauper. Sideboard, we have a couple more Stormbound Geist for the blue-black decks. Like I said, Edict effects are super popular. Choking Sands for Tron, because Tron is common, or there's a lands are a common cycle, so we have to be able to slow them down a little bit on that, and it has the added benefit of flipping Delver. Choking Sands also deals 2 damage to that land's controller if it's a non-basic land, and since we're only bringing it against Tron, hopefully we're always hitting a non-basic land, and that can be really big in terms of just getting that last extra bit of damage in to kill them. We have Nihil Spellbomb for the graveyard decks, as there are a few that really like to go after those. We have Shrivel for decks that play a lot of small 1/1 creatures. Dispel to counter instant spells, which is good against it's good against most of the decks. It's really not good against Affinity or Mono Green Stompy, but other than that, Dispel can come in against a lot of matchups. And then the Zombie Outlander, the best deck in Pauper right now is Mono Green Stompy, and dropping one of these for a blocker that just can never be removed by what they're doing is really strong. And that deck is really powerful and fast, so it's nice to have a really solid sideboard card for that. So yeah, this is Blue-Black Delver for Pauper. We're going to enter a league, and this deck is super fun to play. I would akin it very much to Grixis Death Shadow in Modern. You're playing super low to the ground. You're curving out you're never really hard casting Gush, so you're pretty much curving out at 3 mana with Stormbound Geist. You get to play a bunch of 1 mana cantrips and cheap things that are just super fun to play with. And I think this deck is really strong. It hasn't had a big showing in recent time, but I think that it's poised to impact the format in a really positive way. So yeah, we're going to enter a league, and I'll see you guys there.